In Search of Israeli Cuisine is a documentary that examines how Israel's diverse immigrant population and history of religious and political conflicts have shaped the nation's cuisine. The film chronicles the travels of Israeli-American chef Michael Solomonov as he explores restaurants, orchards, markets, and home kitchens across Israel to answer one seemingly simple question: what is Israeli cuisine? In 2003, after his brother was murdered by Hezbollah snipers, Michael began to explore Israeli foods as a form of catharsis. As his connection with his heritage deepened with each dish, he found a sense of purpose and motivation to persevere through his grief. His newfound passion led him to open Zahav, the Philadelphia-based Israeli restaurant wherein he would become intrigued by the conflicting perceptions of Israel as a nation either too young or ethnically ambiguous to have its own cuisine. As he makes his way from the secular city of Tel Aviv to the religious city of Jerusalem, Michael discovers some of the 150 ethnic and religious influences that have shaped Israel's cuisine while interviewing and sharing plates of hummus, fresh vegetables, and gefilte fish with the diverse collection of chefs across Israel. In his search for the Israeli cuisine, Michael travels and tastes the world within the borders of one nation. Though this film is undeniably centered around the preparation of Israeli dishes, it is hardly a cooking show. Instead, it uses food as a companion guide for understanding the political and religious events which have shaped Israel into a cultural melting pot. As an example, consider the arrival in Israel of Ashkenazi Jews from war-torn Europe. As reporter Jana Gur explains, many Ashkenazi Jewish families were eager to shed the weight of what had become a painful identity and assimilate with the Israeli population, and to that end, the Ashkenazi way of life, including its cuisine, was largely abandoned. Those who did wish to preserve their Ashkenazi identity were hindered by the lack of access to traditional or familiar ingredients, which made producing high-quality traditional meals a near impossibility. This inspired the substitution of Ashkenazi ingredients for Sephardic spices, and thus emerged a hybrid cuisine. Food is also present throughout this film in the form of metaphors. One such example is the comparison by Jewish journalist Gil Havav of the prickly pear fruit to the sweetness and brutality present within Israeli culture. He explains, "From the outside it can kill you because it has these thorns, but on the inside it's colorful and sweet." Other metaphors remain unspoken but are powerful all the same, such as the way in which the tremendous diversity in ingredients and recipes represents a similarly diverse population. Furthermore, shared family meals and the nostalgic recollection of traditional recipes establish and support the film's theme, tone, and setting. Culture is the manifestation of the learned beliefs and values shared by individuals within a given group, visibly expressed through characteristics such as behaviors, languages, art, and cuisine. Through the lens of food, Israeli culture, and particularly the shrinking disparity between interpersonal and national culture, is extensively examined throughout this film. Eating behaviors can be reflective of broader aspects of the culture within which they occur. According to Robin Fox in Food and Eating, you identify yourself with others by eating the same things in the same way. During Michael's interview with journalist Jana Gur, she examines Israeli salad. She states, "It's actually Middle Eastern salad, but what makes it Israeli is the way we use it. We may have learned it from our neighbors, but they don't have salad for breakfast, and we do." The establishment of nationally shared food behaviors unique from those that arrived with each immigrant group signals the beginning of the homogenization of an Israeli culture. This principle extends beyond the consumption of food to its preparation. Though Hungarian or Moroccan immigrants would have arrived in Israel with different uses for various vegetables, they would each seek out locally grown crops, as is the norm throughout Israeli cuisine. By participating in the Israeli culture of purchasing vegetables and spices at the market and catching your own fish, these dishes are transformed from Hungarian or Moroccan recipes into Israeli dishes. In the film, Chef Ezra Kadem explains to Michael that Israeli food is simply what is grown on this land by the people who are living in it, and in that broad definition there is ample room for European and African influences to flourish. This philosophy has allowed for Israeli cuisine to symbolize home for the nation's ethnically and religiously diverse population. As previously mentioned, examination of the disappearance of Ashkenazi Jewish cuisine within the nation of Israel also yields valuable insight into the power of food as a vehicle for culture. As the first generation of Ashkenazi immigrants is now elderly, there is legitimate cause for concern that their traditional recipes, as well as the culture they carry, may soon be lost. Eager to prevent this loss, young chefs have begun a movement in Israel to learn and reintroduce their ancestral recipes into the Israeli palate. Faith can be defined as an individual's conviction in the holy entity and ideologies informed by the teachings of a specific religion. Israel is a nation distinguished by its faith. It is the world's only Jewish nation. It follows that Israeli cuisine has similarly been influenced by the Jewish faith, particularly with regard to its biospiritual tenets. Described by Jamal Nath in God is a Vegetarian as a form of worship involving the veneration of a divine entity that is contingent on the consumption of foods which are classified according to values concerning life and living organisms, biospirituality is especially evident within the Jewish faith in the form of the kosher diet and the observation of the Shabbat. As journalist Ronit Vered explains to Michael, in order to understand the impact of the kosher diet on Israeli cuisine, one must first understand that a significant portion of the governmental authority in Israel is held by those of Orthodox Jewish faith. Consequently, many laws, especially within Jerusalem, are written to reflect Orthodox Jewish beliefs, despite the fact that most of the nation's population is actually secular. Foods which are not classified in Leviticus as kosher have been almost entirely absent from all of Israeli cuisine as a matter of worship. Among other requirements, the kosher diet prohibits pork, shellfish, and mollusks, as well as the consumption of meat and dairy together. It is a rare grocery store, restaurant, or importer that would risk legal or social ramifications in order to procure a non-kosher food within Jerusalem. As Muslim restaurants are also required to abide by kosher laws within Jerusalem, restaurateurs slowly adapted their traditional Middle Eastern recipes that did not meet kosher standards to suit the Jewish segment of the population. Shabbat, which begins each week at dusk on Friday and continues for 25 hours, is a celebration of God's day of rest, during which time families gather and set aside sources of stress. Many forms of work, including baking, trapping or slaughtering meat, or using fire to cook, are prohibited, so all of the foods prepared for feasting during the Shabbat must be prepared before sundown on Friday. While many religious families prepare their meals at home, many secular families who do keep Shabbat, or religious families who would have difficulty preparing meals that would stay fresh for 25 hours, opt to purchase their meals from restaurants instead. An interesting phenomenon has emerged from the hybridization of kosher Muslim dishes. These non-Jewish dishes have become staples at the Israeli Shabbat table. Given the importance of this Jewish rite, the integration of hummus as a new Shabbat staple throughout Israel is not only an example of biospirituality in practice, but also a meaningful demonstration of food being used as a conduit for cross-cultural connection. As this gradual blending of Jewish and Muslim culinary traditions has continued over time, the Israeli cuisine has become more and more distinguished. In Search of Israeli Cuisine is truly an exquisite film, and the innumerable ways in which the themes of culture, faith, ethnicity, and identity are woven into Michael's exploration of Israeli cuisine poses it to serve perfectly as a capstone for this course. If critiqued solely for its visual aesthetic, the parade of colorful and mouth-watering dishes would earn it high marks. Its use of food as an interactive compass and history book would be of interest to any student of food, culture, geography, or world events. Though not explored in this presentation, the film also provides an in-depth look at how food can establish connections and community during periods of intense political and national conflict. Conversely, it provides a valuable reminder that food behaviors can violate connections through consideration of the history of wine production and prohibition within Israel during alternating periods of Jewish and Muslim cultural influence. A brief peripheral discussion of the power of home cooking and the burgeoning anti-industrialization of Israeli cuisine draws an unexpected parallel to the locavore movement in Vermont. Perhaps most importantly, though, is the way the film presents the nation of Israel as more than any one religious or ethnic group, but as a complex yet relatable country with a cuisine as diverse and unique as its people.